Okay. Take roll. Dang it. Kayla, Kaylee, Trinity, Skylar, Joseph is not here. Chloe is not here. Ryan, Haley is not here. Goodness gracious. Nope, because then you fall behind and I can't keep up if all my classes weren't the same. I'm sorry. Okay, so when we plug this into the calculator, you should have gotten 0.4882. Cosine of 86, 0.0698. Tangent of 9.72 is 0.1713. And sine was 0.6947. Okay, so now what is the 6 in reference to this 28? Adjacent. And what's the x? Which means we are using, not sine, cosine of 28 equals what over what? 6 over x. Good. Okay, so we multiply. So we've got x cosine 28 equals 6. Well, we've got to get x by itself, so we divide by cosine of 28. And now, because that cancels, we can use the calculator and get the answer. Okay, so punch that in the calculator. And we get 6.8180, right? Okay, so we got that one. All right, here's the 61. What's the x in reference to it? The x is the hypotenuse. Yes, I was pointing at 17 and I said x. Okay, and what's the 17? Opposite. Opposite over hypotenuse is sine of 61 equals what over what? 17 over x. Good. Throw that over 1, cross multiply. And to get the x by itself, we okay. So x equals okay. Is there something after that 3 that would make it roll up? Okay, so let's make it 19.44. Okay. Any questions there? All right. Now, so we need to figure out what this angle is. How do we find that? 180 minus 152 is? What is it? 28. Okay, so we're using that. What's x in reference to the 28? Opposite. And what's the 12.1? That's the adjacent. Opposite over adjacent is? Tangent, yes. Tangent of 28 equals? What over what? X over 12.1. There we go. Okay, cross multiply. So 12.1 at 12.1 tangent of 28 is x. And so you punch it in the calculator.
No.
12.1 tangent 28?
Is it divide?
No, it's multiply.
Oh, right, yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay. What's this angle right here?
Okay.
23. Vertical angles. Okay, so what's x in reference to the 23? That's your opposite. What's the 57? It is adjacent, but more importantly, it's the hypotenuse, okay? So, opposite and hypotenuse is sine of 23 equals what over what? There we go. Throw it over 1, cross multiply. So what do we get? There you go. Okay. Any questions so far? All right. Am I going too fast? You with me, Skylar? Okay. And there is a video from Friday, and there's another one today. So you'll have stuff to go back and look at. All right. So what's this angle right here?
That is
180 minus 145 is 35. Okay. So what's x in reference to the 35? Opposite. What's the 56? Adjacent. Good. So opposite and adjacent is
No, it's not cosine?
TOA.
tangent.
Tangent of 35 equals what over what? Okay. Throw it over 1, cross multiply. So what do we end up with there? I didn't hear. That's it. Okay. Diagonal DB. BDC is 31.5. Find X if BD is 13. Okay, so are we using sine, cosine, or tangent? What pieces do we have? We have opposite over hypotenuse, which is sine. There we go. Okay, I don't know if that'll work or not. I'm kind of scared to try and turn it hotter for fear it'll start boiling in here, but I'm freezing. Sine of 31.5 equals x over 13. So cross multiply. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Get your homework out. It is. Okay. All right. Now. Okay. An observer on the ground 500 meters from the base of a building. okay, 500 meters from the base of the building, has an angle of 28 degrees up to the top of the building. What is the height? Excuse me. All right. So, what's the x? Opposite. What's the 500? Adjacent. So, tangent of 28 equals what over what?
X over 500.
X over 500. So 500 tangent 28.
265.84.
Yes. Good job. Okay. Now, how far from the base of a building? So here's our building. This is our X. Is an observer on the ground if he measures an angle of 31 degrees from the top of the building. Okay, and it's a 200-foot high building. Okay, so opposite and adjacent, which is tangent of 31 equals what? 200 over x, because it says opposite over adjacent. You got to be careful to follow that. Okay, it's natural to want to put the x on top because it saves you a step, but it's not right.
So does that mean that we're going to have to divide?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have x tangent 31 equals 200.
332.85. Wait, no, I'm just kidding. I did that completely wrong.
No, actually, it is right.
Oh, okay, I'm just kidding.
Okay. But I'm worried that whether or not you have it written down. And I actually got 0.86, but if you put 85, that's fine. You have the process. That's what I'm concerned about. Questions? Okay. So the last two, I think this was the missile and the airplane. Okay, so the missile, we're going to make it look like an arrow. Okay, is at 40,000 feet. Okay, and it's got a target that I can only assume is an airplane.
That's a really good plane shirt.
Thank you. And it says it's at 39,200 feet. Okay, so what's the height difference between these two things? 800. All right, I'm going to write that right there. It has how far away from the target is the missile? If the angle from the missile to the target is 19 degrees. And you could have put it right there too. And this is still 800. Okay. So either way, we're looking at the 800 is the opposite. And the x is the adjacent. Okay, so tangent of 19 equals 800 over x.
I got a big old number.
Well, it is. I mean, we're talking 800 feet in distance.
Is it 23.36?
That might be a little bit too. Yeah, it is actually 0.37. Look at the number after the 6. It should be a 5 or more.
It's an 8.
So it's going to roll it up. That's it. 23.37. There we go. Okay, and then this last one you have to kind of follow the example from the notes. And cosine of angle A is 0.8772. Okay, well, how do we find the angle? What's the special little trick we have to remember? Somebody said it. No, not SOHCAHTOA. How do we find the angle? We have to add one extra button. Yeah. To get the inverse sine or the arc sine. Okay. We did a little lesson on the back of the notes.
Oh, second, and then the cosine and sine.
Right. So if I want to know what angle A is and the cosine of angle A is this, I hit second cosine, and what do I do with that number? You type it in, and what answer do we get? Well, do it. Okay. So 28.69, and I told you to round to the nearest degree on the angles, right? Okay, so 28.69 is really 20, not the nearest degree. Okay, so 29 degrees. All right, now it says, what is the value of the sine of the complement? So what do I have to do with that 29? Complementary angles add to 90 degrees. So I need to do 90 minus 29, and I get 61 degrees. Okay, so then it says, what is the sine? So I take the sine of 61, and that is
0.87.
okay, 4 places. I know it's confusing. There you go. You got it. Okay. So, questions on any of this? All right, put that away. And we are going to start today with the law of sines and the law of cosines. Haley, did you want to take pictures of the rest of it or anything? Okay. It is, yes. Okay, so we got that. You are welcome. Now, okay. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Feels quiet in here. Yes. Oh yeah, she's such a noisy person. I got it. Thank you, Doug. That's not anybody in here, is it? Okay. So, everybody's going to need one of those, and you're going to need one of these. So, go on and come get them. And I'm putting them, grab one there, and you grab one right here. Sorry for not having them already stapled and so forth. Huh? He doesn't even read. Okay, now, does anybody want the hole punch? Okay. Here we go. Y'all in another class. Yeah.
Let's make sure.
That's fine. Alrighty. Now, if you notice on the notes there, it says this is law sines and law cosines is for non-right triangles. Okay? This is the only way you can use these trig functions with a non-right triangle. Okay? Now, and they're a little bit lengthy. The law of sines is definitely the more friendly one. It says the sine of A over little a is equal to the sine of B over little b is equal to the sine of C over little c. Okay? Now, okay. So, the whole idea of this, you have a triangle that is not a right triangle, and they're giving you two angles in one of the sides. Now, if you remember, you might want to draw this on here. Make sure it doesn't look like a right triangle and label it A, B, C. Side A is across from angle A. Side B is across from side B, and side C is across from angle C. Okay? Now, you can use any two of these ratios that they give you, these fractions, and create a proportion to use what they gave you and solve for the missing piece. Okay? Now, how many pieces total are there in a triangle? How many angles and how many sides? 3 angles and 3 sides, so a total of 6 pieces. Okay, so that means on any given triangle, you're going to be solving for 3 different things. Okay, so let's look at this. All right, we've got angle A, angle B, and side B. So over here, I'm going to say, all right, I need angle C. I need side A, and I need side C. Does everybody understand why it's those? Okay. Now, the nice thing when they give you 2 angles, is finding that third angle is pretty easy, huh? What do we have to do? How many degrees are in a triangle? 180. And then, not divide, subtract it from 180. Okay, so we're going back to some past skills. All right, so for angle C, and I'm going to scoot way over here because this is a lot of stuff to find. Okay, we're going to do 180 minus 66 plus 32, right? So angle C, that's 98. So 180 minus 98 is 82 degrees, right? So I'm going to put that in there. All right, so we got 1 down. We got 2 more to find. Okay? Now, so they gave us angle A and angle B and side B. So we're going to use this part of the law of sines right now. Okay? So we're going to say sine of A right here, 98. It's what these two are. All right. So yes, I'm debating on how much to write. Right now, I'm going to write the formula too. Sine A over A equals sine B over little b. Okay. So the sine of 66 over A equals the sine, I put SIB, of 32 over little b, which is 19. Now, can we solve that? Yeah, cross multiply and go. Okay. So we're going to have 19 sine 66 is equal to A times the sine of 32. Well, is A by itself? No, what do we need to do? There we go. We need to divide by the sine of 32. So, running out of room again. So A is equal to this. 19 times the sine of 66 and hit enter. 19 sine 66. Put it right here. Enter. Whoops. Missed the button. Delete. Enter. So we get that. And then I need to divide by sine of 32, right? So you just hit divide, and it automatically drops that whole thing in there by the sine of 32. And hit enter. Is everybody able to get that? Okay, so 32.75. Now, are there any questions on what we did right there? We're not done yet. We're not done. Okay, so we have A now. Now, to find C. So I have B, the angle and the side. And I now know C, the angle, right? So we're going to use this part of the formula. Okay? So we're going to say sine of B over B is equal to sine of C over C. So sine 32 over 19 equals sine of 82 over C. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. Now, so we're going to do the same thing. Now, let me throw this out there. The reason I used the B again, even though I found A, what if I made a mistake finding A? Then that would mean whatever I got for C is totally wrong, right? So you always go back and you use as much of what they gave you as you can, and then fill in the rest. Okay. And we're pretty good at finding angles now like that. So that I feel good about that. Okay. Does that make sense? To try and decrease the chance of a mistake somewhere. All right. So we've got C sine 32 is equal to 19 sine 82. So we divide by the sine of 32. So C we do 19 sine 82 equals divided by sine 32. 35.51. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay? Yes, ma'am.
How did you get rid of the 19?
I didn't get rid of the 19.
I mean, like, how did you get it out from the fraction?
I cross multiplied, so 19 times the sine of 82, and then I did c times sine of 32. Okay, is everybody good with the process? Do you have it written down? Okay,
It's all one way. It's hard to see.
okay. Well, then maybe I need to give you my notes when we're done. Okay, that's fine. All right, now, so we found all three things, so there are answers. But there is a problem with the law of sines. Can you see it okay? Do I need to blow it up? Okay. Is that better? Okay. There we go. Now, so there is a problem with using the law of sines because it only works if you have two angles and a side. If they give you two sides and one angle, you don't have enough to make it work. Okay? So, you have it all down or not quite? Okay. So that's where the law of cosines comes in. Now, I'm just telling you, hold on to your hat. When you look at it, you're gonna want to go scream and run for the woods right now. Okay? But once you see the other versions of it, then you see that there's a pattern. Okay? So let's look at this. Okay. So is everybody good here? This is pretty friendly. You may, or maybe you don't think so, but let me tell you, this is going to look real good in just a second. Okay? Now, so we flip over. So when you have two sides and an angle that is not in between those two sides, you end up with a problem. So you have to do the law of cosines. Okay? Oh, you sure can't. Okay. So we're going to do c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Now that doesn't look too bad. That looks kind of familiar. Okay. Minus
This is where it gets bad.
2ab cosine of c. And you're going, what the heck? Okay. Now, okay, so listen. So that looks absolutely horrible. But when you see the second one, hopefully you'll kind of start to see a little pattern here. Okay. And we don't use this one as much as we use law of sines. So if we do b squared equals c squared plus a squared. What are you noticing?
It's the Pythagorean theorem.
It's kind of the Pythagorean theorem, but it's been bastardized. I'll grant you that. Okay. But if this is b, then you know a and c have to be over here, right? And minus 2, and this was ab, so this is going to be ac. Cosine of what?
B.
Cosine of b. There you go. Okay, it still looks horrible. I understand.
Yeah, I put a little note next
Okay.
to it. Name of Celestia is this.
It still looks terrible, but you started to see a little bit of a pattern. Okay, so now, and that's what math is a whole bunch of patterns. So if we say a squared, what are we going to put?
C squared plus a squared. Oh, c squared. Just kidding.
Minus 2 BC. Okay, so these pieces right here are what were right here squared, but they're not squared anymore. And then cosine cosine A. Okay, so yeah, it looks ugly,
Looks like a stick for us.
but we're able to do it. Okay, now, okay, and so they say don't look at the formula. They're saying you should learn that it's the square of a side equals the sum of the squares of the other two sides minus twice the product of the other sides and the cosine of the angle in between them. Okay, math and words, you don't want that. You want math and numbers. Okay, so don't worry about that. Okay, don't. I mean, it's correct, but you don't have to know it to be able to spit it out. Okay, so let's practice it. Okay, now can I shrink it back down so I can get a little more on the screen? Okay. Will it
Just
work?
all of us.
Okay, there. We can get everything on there, and it's still a little bit bigger. Okay, so we've got A, we've got C, and then we have B. Well, if we have A and C, that means we're wanting to use the B squared. B squared equals
C squared plus A squared.
A squared plus C squared, yes, minus 2AC cosine B.
Does it
Okay.
matter which way you put it?
What do you mean, which way?
Like, would it have mattered if it was?
Oh, if you put C squared and A squared? No, that won't matter. It won't matter.
So what you're saying is what I said was right.
Yes, and that's actually what I wrote right there. So you did fine. You did fine. Okay, now, so let's start plugging in. B squared equals 5 squared plus 12 squared minus 2 times 5 times 12, right? Cosine
I swear this is easy as a try.
of 28. Okay, now, this is the point where some of y'all want to dive straight to the calculator. I have to see at least what you plugged in, okay?
All right, I got you.
Now, so, oops, why did it do that? Okay, so I prefer to simplify it a little bit more before I go to the calculator, because if you get anything wrong up here, it's going to screw it up, just like with the quadratic formula, where you got the giant square root, and if you don't do this right and that right, it screws up the whole thing. Okay, so we're going to finish this one, and then we're close to the other one.
I feel proud of myself.
Okay, shh. So B squared equals 25 plus 144 minus 2 times 5 is 10 times 12 is 120 cosine of 28. Okay. All right, so 25 and 144, 9, 6, 169 minus 120 cosine of 28. 25 plus 144. Somebody double check me, but I think that's right.
Yeah, I just put 44. I didn't put the one.
Okay. Now, so I want to put that in the calculator. 169 minus 120 cosine 28.
I got it right the first time I plugged in everything.
There you go. So 63.0, it's actually 05, but don't clear your calculator. Look up here. Now this is B squared. We need B. How do you undo a square? Take the square root, right? It's a special kind of dividing. So you take this answer, you do second, square root, second, and remember you can hit answer down here with the negative, and it automatically drops all the decimals in, and you hit enter, and so we get 7.94. Okay, now that's B. Okay, so we have A, B, C. We still need angle A and angle C, and we will pick up with that tomorrow. Okay, y'all be good. Hang on to your papers.
I thought you were about to say hang on to your hats again.
No.
You'd be proud of me. I did it right the first time.
Yay.